So my reflection will be about the importance of innovation and entrepreneurship to improve the health and the social participation of the communities we are lucky to be able to work and to cooperate with. So my presentation is gonna be developed in 3 different parts. The first part, I will do a short reflection. The second part, I will talk a little more about entrepreneurship, and then I will share with you some of the actions, the projects we are developing, trying to transfer these principles into realities, because I think this is extremely important to really develop real praxis with real impact in the real world. So, and why I am saying this? You will recognize this sculpture. The Thinker of Rodin is maybe one of the most famous sculptures of the world. It's a kind of art icon, but not so many people knows the fact that the Thinker, originally, this sculpture is located in a monumental door. It's called the Door of Hell. And if we reflect of the context today, and what is the mission, and what's the role of the academia in contemporary society, we can reflect that really there are so many challenges that we as health and social professionals, we have to confront. We are responsible to improve the situation. For example, this painting from Josh Gross, I think can reflect a little about the contemporary society. If we, for example, think about the high percentage of the population having mental health problems, about anxiety, for example, or depression, and there is a lot high levels of aggressivity, or we can reflect about the high levels of unemployment, or so many people having jobs, but there are very bad paid jobs. For example, maybe you don't know that 17–18% of people living under poverty in Europe are working, but although they are working, they are still poor. Of course, we can talk about war. War is very present in contemporary society. Myself, I was working in war countries. I was working in Kosovo, Bosnia, and Guatemala. Later, I will reflect to this. Now we can talk, for example, about Syria. And this war is connected to realities of the refugee crisis. In Europe, one of the more topics, more of the important challenges we have really is how we can deal with the situation of the refugees. So, we also can reflect about the environment. This is a painting from James Ensor, and it's called Cadavers, Skeletons, Fighting for a Cadaver. And when I think this painting, I think it's like us, the human beings, that we are fighting for the remaining resources from the planet, because we are just taking all the resources connected to one economy, just thinking about growing, exponential growing, unlimited growing. And you cannot have unlimited growing in a planet with limited resources. And the most important part of this painting from Ensor for me is, Ensor is working out with the mask, and you see the mask in the doors. For me are the next generations that are waiting their turn to live. And they will have no choice, because our generations are taking all the remaining resources. So, we have so many things we can talk about. We can talk about the deconstruction of the welfare society, for example, Bourdieu, or for example, the privatization of the health and the education system, how addictions, mental health problems are working, about social fascism. We are seeing how in countries like France, like Italy, for example, extreme right movements are progressing in the Netherlands. Bauman was talking about the liquid society, unemployment. There are so many things we have to carefully consider, but not to arrive this kind of conclusion to say, wow, there is nothing to do, or this is very depressive. No, we must really think about this, because we are academia, and our responsibility, as John Dewey was saying, is to develop an intelligent action. And what's an intelligent action? This is the action who really understands what's going on and is able to improve it, is able to create solutions, create innovative solutions, let me say. Because Edgar Morin also says it's a very complex reality, and the role of academia is to be able to understand all this complexity, but then to transform, to improve it. And here is where, for example, entrepreneurship can be very useful for us, connected to innovation. So let me just share some thoughts, some reflections about entrepreneurship with you, and as we are developing, because maybe some of these reflections maybe can be helpful for you. So when we work about social entrepreneurship, for example, we are working a lot connecting it to service learning, university service learning. We have a huge, amazing, social, human, intellectual, passionate capital at the universities. We cannot have these amazing resources 4 years sleeping at the academia, talking about what we are going to do when we go to communities. During the time we are part of the academia, of the university, we can start developing projects connected to the service to society. Service learning is a strategy where you are connecting the excellence in learning, because it's real based praxis. So we are ensuring the students are acquiring the best competences, the proper knowledge, but at the same time we are giving service to communities, to societies, and this is very important. And this is really transformative, because as Plato was saying, the ideas are perfect because are just ideas. For me, for example, it's very easy to teach at the classes, to talk, we should do this, or you can do that, blah, 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 blah. But when I try to convert these theories into praxis, reality appears. And then we dialogue with reality. And then we see the real challenges, the difficulties, what's going on, what's not going on, what to do. And this is real. And in this context, we can learn. So it's very important. It's learning by doing. This is the real learning. Learning by doing. And it's an evidence-based. We integrate also humanity-based. It's not just to depart always from scientific knowledge, evidence-based praxis. We need to do that. But also we need to reflect, is this humanity-based praxis? This is very important. So in our projects, we are incorporating these service learning methodologies, but we're also thinking about action research methodologies. We do research, yes. We generate knowledge, yes. But always this knowledge is focused to transform societies, to transform communities. And it's very important to work towards the democratization of the research processes. It's not just we do research with the communities. There are subjects. There are no objects. There are subjects. So they take part of the communities. And for example, we use a lot qualitative research where we are giving voices to people, but also we try to involucrate the people in the research projects as co-researchers. For example, in some of our projects, mental health survivors are co-researchers, are taking the interviews, are developing part of the research task. And also it's very important how we transfer the knowledge we are generating. If we publish a paper in a very important journal, it's good for us. But normally this paper is not going to be read by the community. So we must ensure that our knowledge that we are creating with the communities comes back to the community. And for example, we can use different languages. And for example, we are using a lot of art. We are developing exhibitions with photography, paintings, whatever, where we include the content of the research. We transfer then the content, the knowledge. And always we must think about what's the real social impact of our research. This is very important. We cannot allow to develop a very theoretical research with no real impact, because we must be sure, we must understand that we are living in a difficult situation. It's a kind of crisis, and we must really have a real impact. So what's entrepreneurship connected to health and social problems? Is to look for innovative solutions connected to the most crucial health, social, ecological problems that society is confronting. So it's about innovation. So it connects very well with the topic of this week. So when we think about social entrepreneurship, we always just think and create a social enterprise. And this is one product. We can be social and work in social entrepreneurship in so many ways. creating innovative projects, thinking about different processes, thinking about different products. So it's not just about the creation of an enterprise. That's one of the projects that we can work about. So it's very important to remember that David Bohm said, David Bohm is one of the biggest theorists in creativity, that the problem is that we are repetitive when we need to be creative. So many times we do one strategy, it's not working, but we repeat, and the results are not better. For example, Einstein said, the system of thought who has created a problem cannot fix it. So, and in this moment, when we are thinking about the huge challenges we have, we sometimes feel a little overwhelmed by the situation. So in these moments, it's very important to remember and to receive the inspiration of people like Gandhi, like Luther King, or for example, Emmeline Pankhurst was one of the British suffragists. Thanks to her work and the women of their generation, the women had the right to vote. And for example, I have been so privileged to work with Muhammad Yunus. He's a Nobel Prize for Peace. He created the Bank of the Poor. He started giving credits to poor people. So we have figures, important figures, that reminds us that change is difficult, but change is possible. That's very important to remember always. So, and also, we have things that are really inspiring us. So when you want to be innovative and you want to start dealing with problems, it's very important to sit down one moment and think, what's giving me inspiration? For example, in my case, I was so lucky to work and to travel, for example, in Africa. I was 18 years old. You can see me in that photo just traveling through Africa. I was 3 months traveling in Kenya, Tanzania with my bag, not this kind of tourist trip. I was myself with my bag, 3 months, and Mother Africa. And that journey, that's me so many things. It was about to be in contact with the culture of Africa. I learned about the power of people, the power of communities. I enjoy a lot the vitality, the willingness to live. So many times we are in Europe, and Europe looks like we are sad, we are tired. Sometimes my reflection is that we as Europeans, we are tired and we don't know what we are tired about. But it's this lack of vitality and especially the lack of joy for life. We take life for granted. We think we live for 85 years old, so we start building our insurance for when I will be older, will be 85. And we really don't know what's going to be like tomorrow. So life is a gift, and we must remember every day. And we must connect to the joy to receive this miracle called life. Because if I remember this, my attitude is different. Then I was also very, very lucky. I had the privilege to work in Guatemala, with the communities in Guatemala. And working with these communities also, I received so many lessons. I received so many lessons working in Guatemala. I was working there for 6 months with a Mayan, Indian refugee community, and I learned a lot about community. This capitalism is educating us in the spirit of the selfishness. It's me, myself, and I. It's about social atomism, it's about individualization. And we must remember we are part of communities. We are part of the human family. And the most important, we need each other to survive. This narrative about I am independent, I can be myself, this is not true. And we are rational beings, as Martin theorists say, but we are dependent beings. We always need each other. Guatemala also was for me the lesson about the importance of nature, the connection with the natural environment. But Guatemala also taught me about we are here to fight. We are here to fight for a better society, for a better community. We must take part. It's not that there are problems, and it's not my problem, it's not about me, it's about us. We are responsible. We are academia, and we have the responsibility to improve the life from the health and the social perspective of the people we work with. So we cannot be neutral. And last experience, it was very useful for me, was to work in Kosovo. I was working in Kosovo with Medicine Sans Frontiers, developing mental health preventative projects dealing with refugees, working with teachers, training the teachers to improve the emotional well-being and to prevent the war trauma of the children. And I learned about the amazing capabilities of people, the beauty of the human spirit. I was amazed by the resilience of the children, how the children has been confronting war, and even these extreme events with little support they can develop in a very beautiful way. So we must remember the amazing capabilities of the human beings. And also I learned about the importance of art, because we are using art to combat the trauma with children. So there I learned that art is a universal language. We are using drawings, we are using theater, we are using paintings, we are using puppetry, and it's a universal language. So you'll see how